Real Estate Rewired.
Welcome to Real Estate Rewired AI with a Heart with Gus Swait. This is a show where we talk about all things real estate and AI. And today I couldn't be more thrilled to be with James Tabor, and he's with York Castle Real Estate in Colorado Springs, West Point grad, moved out from Massachusetts, solopreneur. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Russ. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we were talking a little bit. How the heck did you end up in Colorado in real estate? What was that journey like?
Yeah, it was definitely took the scenic route to here. So, like you said, so I was a West Point grad, graduated in 2014. Had a 5-year Army commitment, and Fort Carson was my first duty station here. So, wife and I bought our first home here in 2015. Kind of got the real estate bug, if you will, at that point. From there, bounced around, went to Virginia for 6 months, then Fort Riley's my last duty station. Then I got out of the Army, went to corporate America, worked for a company called Boston Scientific, which is a medical device company, and honestly hated it. The corporate grind was kind of terrible. So while I was at Carson, my company commander, while I was an XO, his wife had started a brokerage down here in Colorado Springs. He and I had kind of stayed close. He called me. I mean, he stayed in touch with me. And he called me kind of on the perfect day where I was ready to quit and, basically go make tacos for a living and anything else. So he was like, "Hey, why don't you come down to Colorado Springs, get your license, and we'll, kind of get the team back together and we'll work together in real estate." So I jumped back down here in May of 21. Was on the team for about 5 years. Really great experience. Definitely got a lot of reps early on. Most of our clients are, active duty or veteran, as you can imagine. A lot of academy grads, Air Force academies here as well. So a lot of academy grads for kind of the client base. And then this past January, decided to make the switch to, operate as an independent agent. I felt that it was time. I kind of had enough experience with the reps, and really was just excited to kind of take what I learned there and everything else and kind of build my own brand.
Love it. And so do you generally focus exclusively on or specialize in military families and the challenges that military families might face in moving?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So most of my business is all relationship based. So really networking is really my hard focus. What I lean into is try to find some type of commonality up front. That way the person will typically engage with that. The academy background is generally a good shoe in. There's kind of some shared suffering there where they're like, "Oh yeah, I went through the same experience. So let's
Right,
have a
right.
conversation." And then you know, so that's probably the bulk of it is networking. What I found too with that is a lot of guys that are active duty here, they kind of fall in love with Colorado Springs, like it's beautiful, and they want to stay, but they're like, well, where do I work? Like post army. So honestly, that networking has helped in that regard, where I can kind of connect a lot of different people and say, hey, I know you want to be in this lane, or hey, it's becoming a huge space defense hub here. Here's the people in my Rolodex that I can connect you with. So that aspect has been great. A lot of times it ends up, I'll help them 3 or 4 times before there's like a referral or an actual real estate transaction coming from it. So to answer your question, yeah, that is definitely heavily what I lean
So
into.
let me ask you this. What are the two things, two-parted question. One is probably the easiest one. What do they love about Colorado Springs? And the second part to that question is, what unique challenges do military families have in securing housing, either rental or purchasing?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what they love here is, of course it's a mountain state. I mean, you're right up on the front range here, 14,000 foot Pikes Peak. So you're kind of in a valley surrounded by mountains is what it feels like. It's a really big, really great place for live, work, play. A lot of hiking trails, go west for skiing, but also the climate's pretty mild. The typical winter day, for example, it's 45 and sunny, or you're getting a foot of snow. There's kind
Okay.
of no in between. So it's not
Right.
like Northeast, like we talked about, where you
Right.
get 4 months of cold and gray.
Right.
And then, it's also, I think for veterans and families, it is a huge veteran hub. And once you're kind of in the military, A lot of people are like, oh, I just can't wait to get out sometimes. But once you're out, you're like, wait a minute, I really like those people. So it's kind of a veteran family community, if you will. And I think that's what draws people to stay as well. And then as far as like challenges for military, definitely the challenge is like, hey, a lot of times they're moving every 2 to 3 years. So
Hmm.
a lot of times it's all based on orders. Hey, I've got stationed at Peterson Space Force Base here, so I have to move. And the challenge is a lot of times they're coming, they have no context of the area, they know nothing about it. So that's where I try to come in and kind of bridge the gap, teach them about the area before they arrive. That when they get here, they kind of know what neighborhoods to look for and whatnot.
Hmm.
Not uncommon for me to have a client where the first time they're here is when they're in the house that they already closed on.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
that's a big challenge of like, hey, I've got to be very specific with videos and FaceTime and
Hmm.
explaining things. And I would say that the challenge we've seen as of late with, of course, mortgage rates going up, is the appreciation is we're really flat the last like 2 or 3 years. So it is a tougher conversation if you're military and you know you're only going to be here for 2 or 3 years, you could certainly buy a home, but you might not be able to sell it in 2 to 3 years for a profit. So that's
Hmm.
tough. The other side that we're struggling with is the rents are maybe up 5% since
Hmm.
21. Mortgage payments are up significantly. So it's not uncommon to have, a VA buyer say, hey, I could rent this home for 2,300 or I could buy it and have a $3,200 mortgage.
Mm.
So the challenge again at there is like the exit strategy is tough. So a lot of times with clients, it's like the first thing I ask is like, hey, what's your window here? Are you going to be here
Hmm.
for 24 months or are you here 5 years? Because it's a totally different situation. Because that's something we've seen here where guys that bought 21, 50K over list. They're like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to try to rent it. Okay, wait a minute. I can't rent it at a profit. Let me sell it. Okay, wait a minute. Those numbers are tight.
Hmm.
So
So,
hopefully
and
that makes
listen,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it absolutely does. And so, just to give me a sense, so let's say a typical quote unquote two-bedroom rental in Colorado Springs, as opposed to a two-bedroom, even let's say, are there two-bedroom condos in Colorado Springs? Would that be something, or is it mostly single-family homes?
It's mostly single family. Your kind of niche is like, I'd say like a 3 bed, 2 bath townhome or single family would be kind of like
Okay.
your kind of starter entry level point.
And what's the what are those going for right now? Just ballpark.
Yeah, yes, you're probably around 21, 2,300 a month for rent, for
Right.
a unit like that. Even a townhome, you're probably still low threes in a lot of
Hmm.
areas. Some areas you can get up to 600 if you want, but all in, you're probably about 26, 2,700 mortgage payment
Got it.
wise. Assuming you're a low down payment, sometimes zero down payment for VA.
Right.
And that's before HOA dues. And then of course these guys are PCSing, they're leaving. So typically they'll want a manager in there so you can see like you can be eating a good chunk every
Right.
month if you decide to rent it later.
Well, and I always found the interesting thing. I used to say, when people were moving to New York City, it was a five-step process: denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. And do you find that same sort of emotional curve when people are coming in? They're just sort of in denial about, oh my God, this costs this much, or like the vision they had of moving to Colorado Springs and the reality of the cost and the process. There's a window there that you have to kind of ride through with them. How do you ride through that piece? And oftentimes in a family, in a couple, maybe one person's really looking forward to moving there, one person isn't. So you also have that dynamic. So I'm just curious, how do you navigate the emotional reality that these are difficult choices for military families to make?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's honestly the first conversation tends to be the shock, the
Mm,
denial conversation you're getting at. They're expecting my housing allowance from the army is probably 2,500. I want to buy a house 2,500. I'll find them some options, and it's like, hey, you can buy a 3 bed townhome down in Fountain. That works.
mm,
And we'll typically go show them, or they'll look at the area and they'll be like, James, I really don't want to be in this area. I really want it to be north up in Briargate. So over time, it is kind of that acceptance where they're like, hey, I know that I can, I like where I'm at financially with that Fountain townhome. but lifestyle wise, it's not a good fit. And usually that's where we kind of converge over time. Is they're like, hey, I want to be in Briargate. I'm going to take on the higher mortgage payment because of it, because my family's going to be miserable if we're down in
Mm-hmm.
Fountain, which is common because I think a lot of the military, they're coming in, they don't know the area, so they look at numbers first, very
Mm-hmm.
mortgage payment centric. Then they kind of get here or start, you know, seeing the videos that I share on the different areas, and they're like, hey, that's not a good lifestyle play for us. So that's kind of how we end up kind of moving that up. And then one workaround that's been good and an option for some is because we're such a big military town, is VA assumption purchases are a great option.
And what is that?
Um, yeah, so it's kind of what it sounds like. Essentially, it's mostly only for veterans, although technically a civilian could assume it. But you essentially purchase a home where you're just taking over the existing mortgage.
Okay.
So there's a lot of homes, and there's some areas, like I said, where the appreciation's kind of flat. So you might have a home that's listed at 450. It has a VA loan on it at 425 at a 3.5% rate.
Mm.
So we're not talking a huge gap, 25K down payment. So they can go in, secure that, have a 3.5% mortgage. Now we're much closer in terms of like the BAH, the housing allowance, or much closer in terms of, hey, if I leave soon, I can rent this.
Mm.
So that's something I've been leaning into very, very heavily here.
And what happens to the seller? How do they get taken care of?
Yeah, so essentially the seller, they're getting that equity. So, the person takes over the loan at 425, they get a 450 sales price. Honestly, in that case, they're not getting a whole lot after you take out like
Mm-hmm.
realtor fees, but generally they'll get the equity minus the transaction fees. The key thing to note for a seller here in that case is you want to sell it to another veteran who can substitute your VA entitlement, if that makes sense.
So basically, what you're kind of saying is, hey, listen, instead of sitting on it for 3 years and sweating it out and either having to pay or to try to rent it and come up with $500 or $600 each month to cover the spread, you're like, suck it up. You're out of it. You didn't lose any money. You've got the headache off your plate. You're giving it to another veteran who may be a family guy so you're kind of doing the right thing by them. And I mean, those are the kinds of things that I find unique in each market. New York, it's condos and co-ops and all kinds of rules,
Yeah.
right? So out in
Yep.
Colorado Springs with military,
Yep.
and that's something that you specialize in. I mean, that's a solution that you've come up with that people who didn't necessarily work exclusively or primarily with this population wouldn't know.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And a lot of times too with the seller, they can sometimes get a premium sale price,
Right.
maybe a little bit over market because, again, the buyer is like, wait a minute, I'm taking on a 3% versus a 6%
Mm,
today. So a
got
lot
it.
of times you can kind of create like a win-win. It has its limitations though. You can imagine if you've bought in 2020 or some of these gaps get pretty big, like a hundred
Right.
thousand dollar gap. And it's like, hey, I don't have a whole lot of clients that are 100,000 liquid to
Hmm.
go and do that.
Well, I mean, especially if they've, generally been in the house for 2 or 3 years, unless there was a huge appreciation run in that
Right.
3 year period. And that's why it's so important the questions you're asking about how long you're going to be here. Hey, if I'm going to be here 10 years, whatever, that's a different conversation that I don't know. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, but I need the flexibility to bounce and very difficult to time markets. So
Exactly. Yeah.
we don't know if it would be going the other way at some point. So there's a lot of moving parts, James, that you're taking care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're exactly right. For a lot of clients where they're like, hey, this is final destination or 10-year window. I'm like, you can kind of buy wherever you want. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, Springs is growing. We're expected to be population wise. I think we're supposed to break 1 million by 2053.
Hmm.
So, it's not I guess not like, I mean, not that California is necessarily struggling value wise right now, but there is an exodus from
Well, and
California. So
also
we're not,
listen, there is the
yeah,
reality of how much more it costs to build something these days.
yes,
So, I mean, the new construction prices have to be through the roof, materials, labor, and I don't know what the local zoning laws are like out there, but sometimes those can be challenging. You have oppositional from local communities. So what is the building going on right now? Like what kind, how are they going to answer the fact that they need this many more homes in the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, great question. So when you look at Colorado Springs, it all runs off Interstate 25, and as you go west, you run into the mountains, and
Hmm.
that's pretty built up. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity there. What we're seeing is a big push east, because when you get east of Colorado Springs, you're essentially in Kansas, it's just plains. I'm serious. It's like farmland, acres of
Is
vacant
there a
land.
sign, by the way, on
Yeah,
the highway that says you're essentially in Kansas when you sort of get to
it
those
should.
plains?
I always joke with clients like, hey, if you get far enough east, you're Kansas with mountain views,
Right, right.
essentially. But that's where the big push is, and you're kind of getting at, okay, well, how do they attack it from an affordability standpoint? They are able to get that land pretty cheap, and then as far as building it up, well, they have these huge parcels of land, and generally the kind of the norm here, and you wouldn't think it is 5,000 square foot lots, kind of normal for Colorado Springs, not that big. So they can put 200 units up in a pretty small area pretty quickly. And then, I mean, price point, you're probably like low 400 range for like a nice 3.2 new construction. The benefit for a buyer, the advantage now is they are still struggling um, to offload those. So they're offering massive incentives. It ends up being 35K in builder incentives. And the big play for them is, hey, we'll give you a fixed VA at 3.99% or a 7/1 arm for a conventional at 3.875. So that's kind of how they incentivize people to come in. The challenge for the new construction out here is the property taxes are very high. So a lot of times that interest rate benefit that you get is almost completely offset by the higher taxes that you're paying. So a lot of times it doesn't end up being as much of a slam dunk as it appears on paper.
Let me ask you a question because my son-in-law is a veteran, and in New Jersey, in his town, he pays no property taxes
Yeah,
because he's a veteran.
yeah, great point too. So here, if you're considered a disabled veteran here,
Yes, which he
and I,
is.
and I, yeah, and I think you have to be 100%. I don't think because there's different disability
Right.
ratings. But if you're 100% disabled, you basically get a deferment on the first 250K of taxable value. So in effect, you pay 60 to 70% less in taxes,
Got it.
which has been a big win for a lot of clients of mine that like a good neighborhood here is Lorson Ranch. You know, kind of started in 2010, massive, new build community, but the taxes are egregiously high. But it's a great neighborhood. It's mostly veterans. It's, military family community, lots of young kids. And a lot of clients, they're like, hey, I really like it, but what do I do? It's like, hey, are you disabled? Okay, here's the workaround for you.
Mm.
So it has been beneficial. I know Colorado's trying to expand it to like, hey, a lower disability rating. You can get some type of offset or increasing it. But I will say it sounds like the one in Jersey might be more lucrative.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. And
yeah,
listen, I'm dying to know. So, like, when you say high taxes, so like on a
that is a good point.
$400,000 home, I'm talking Jersey, New York over here,
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm
out in
from like
Colorado Springs. What would
yeah,
be high taxes on a $400,000 home?
yeah. Generally 4 to 5K annually.
Whoa!
So it's yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are
New build out here, 25K. I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny. It's funny how it becomes relative because
it
I like
really
I
does.
grew up in Massachusetts, so
Right,
when I first got here, I was like, oh, this place is dirt cheap. And
right.
now that I've been here, I'm kind of like, oh, that 4K is kind of high. Then what do we?
Wow,
Most of the time,
interesting.
it's 2K.
Well, let me switch a little bit over to the AI stuff, right? So I'm just curious. Let's start with your attitude towards it. When you think of AI, hear of AI, like what's your emotional reaction to it? How are you dealing with it? How are you implementing it? You know what I mean? Just a sort of general overview of where you're at with it.
Yeah, I definitely view it as like a force multiplier. It definitely speeds up a lot of things. Where I've leveraged it quite a bit is just with things that used to take me, 7, 8 hours to do. Like for example, like a monthly market report. Go on the MLS, pull all the data. It's like, hey, for me, I can look at that raw data and be like, yep, this is the story. And what I'd have to do in the past before I started utilizing the AI is, I'd spend a day taking the data, making it look nice in a one-page PDF, so it looked pretty, get the narrative, put the visuals on, make the graphs, and I'd spend like a whole day and then it's like, okay, cool. Now I have my product. I can send it out as my follow-up touch point. But now I can leverage it to just take my spreadsheet. It takes me 30 minutes to pull the MOS data that I need, dump it into, like I use Claude AI quite a bit.
And are you doing the paid version of Claude?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing the paid version. Yep.
And so I have some questions about that, but how
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so let me ask you this. I always, there was a great documentary called Move 37, and it was basically the Go documentary where 10 years ago when these guys were in South Korea and AI beat the world champion Go player, and Demis Hassabis turned to his partner and said, "Hey, we just solved protein folding," and sort of could trace that line. So that was their aha moment. And what was your aha moment with AI where you just kind of went, "Oh my God, man, this is crazy"?
Yeah. Honestly, that was kind of it. I was like, oh, like my goal was like, hey, I'm going to try to make this thing create like a nice PDF report for me. And initially I'm thinking I'm going to have to prompt this thing for an hour. I'm going to have to be like, hey, you need to reference this data. You need to build this exact graph. I need this color line. I need this trend.
Right.
I need this narrative. I mean, that's what I was expecting. And what I did was I just said, hey, I'm going to build a mark report, PDF, make it look pretty. Here's my data. And everything that I had down in my notes of like, this is the story the data is saying, this is the so what that the client needs to know, immediately pumped it out.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, okay, and it took 10 seconds for it to iterate and think.
And how long did that used to take you?
Like I said, I mean, I'd spend a full day on it.
Like 8
Really,
hours?
really, yeah, really what it was building the presentation essentially. Um, you'd go in Excel, all right, I got to make this graph. Okay, I need this font. I need this
Yeah, and
header.
James, you look
Okay.
really excited to build this. I mean, I could just tell by your energy that was your favorite month of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
month was building the report and the
yep,
graphs and trying to get the color lines right.
yeah, yeah. It was brutal. And then like, I'd have one Excel that was messed up, and it'd throw the whole thing off and like go back or let me try to fix it. So the AI was a huge help on that. Sometimes it does take like a few iterations to clean it up. Get the headers right, get the text lined up, but it's still significantly quicker. And honestly, it's still 10 times more professional looking than I could make it myself.
And let me ask you this, because this is a common what I find. Do you ever feel behind when it comes to AI? Do you ever feel
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think we all do.
Mhm.
I think part of it too is, of course, with the network, I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn.
Right?
So like my classmates, one guy's big into commercial real estate investing, and he's like, "Oh, I use Claude to build this, 10-page report of apartments in San Francisco." And I'm like, "That's like super advanced." I'm like, "How did you build that?" And you see the feed all the time and how people are using it, and in that sense, like, yeah, you always feel like, yeah, I know I'm using it, but this guy's using it like that. So I've got to be
Exactly.
behind, you know?
Yeah, no, it does create, and then of course, once you go down that rabbit hole, the amount of incoming about third party like providers that, just plug this one tool into your business and you'll never have to work
Yep,
again. And you're like,
exactly. Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
exactly.
Should I try it? I don't know. And then, it's funny. I always feel like this way with technology too, James. I don't know about you, but so I love the Siri in my car. So I can press the little thing, call Gary Katie. And all of a sudden, I'm in my car. I say, "Call Gary Katie," and it's like, he's not in your contacts. And I'm like, what do you mean he's not my contacts? Like, he's in my favorites. I call him every day, and I look in my contacts, and it's in there. And then, this is a break for me. I'll take a picture of the screen if I'm stuck somewhere and put it in ChatGPT and go, what button do I press? Like, where do I need to go here? And it'll walk me through it, where that in and of itself, like, right? So I guess where I'm getting to with this is there was an OS update. I bring it into Verizon. She can't figure it out. And then basically her workaround was put his last name first and his first name last. So now I say, call Katie Gary. And it's like, sure, I'll call him. So the question I have for you is, no matter how much you implement, there's always like the next iteration of it, there are obstacles. How do you at that point either break through that obstacle and go, okay, I'm going to figure this out and use it? Because I don't know about you. If I don't implement it and use it on a daily basis, it's kind of like the universal gym in the basement. Like if I'm not doing it
Yeah.
all the time, man,
Yep.
it's just sitting
Yeah.
there gathering.
Atrophies. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your process for sort of overcoming the hiccups in implementation?
Yeah. Honestly, it's very similar what you just described. Is I'll leverage, ChatGPT quite a bit. If I'm like, hey, this is an improvement I need. A good example recently was, I just set up my new CRM and a new email domain, and I would send out like a campaign, and everything was going to spam. So I'm like, what's going
Mm,
on? I'm not a tech guy. I don't know what's going on. Throw it into ChatGPT. It's like, oh, it's a domain issue. It's a DNS issue. You need to put this code in. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. So I did the same thing you did. I just said, hey, give me a step by step. So how I go to GoDaddy and fix this email. And I did the same thing you did. Every time I got a screen, I was like, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to screenshot it and throw it into ChatGPT. And it's going to tell me, you need to click on this button.
right.
You need to copy this exact thing.
Well, has
And
it
fix it that way.
apologized to you yet?
Uh,
So what I
not yet.
found is a couple
Yeah.
of times I started yelling at it. I'm like, no, there is no button there on the left. And it goes, so sorry, they changed the user interface last time around.
Yeah.
You must be using it.
Yep.
I'm like, why didn't you tell me that 20 minutes ago? You didn't know it was a wrong user interface 20 minutes ago. Like it's a weird thing, right? And then it starts apologizing, going, oh, listen, my bad. And you're like, okay, it's a freaky world, James, with this
Yeah.
stuff.
But honestly, I think it's helped with like just learn like things like that. That would have taken me a month, like 10, 15 years ago. Let me read a blog and be like, okay, that could be the issue. And then with the AI, it was like, nope, you just do this, and here's why, and it would explain it. So I'm kind of learning what the issue is as I'm going.
Right.
So
So
it's really
I'm
set that
curious
up.
about this too. So this is what, was explained to me, and I love this idea that all jobs are a series of tasks and all workflows come from those tasks, right? So, I mean, you do stuff every day, like you had to create your newsletter. Do you have a process where you really identify exactly what your workflows are, what your tasks are, and then have a system set up to identify, okay, which parts of this now could AI do? Because I look at it like black, white, and gray, right? The black is AI can do it all the time. A text, hey, the appointment, I'll meet you there. AI can do that all the time. Having a difficult conversation with a family that the home that they want, they got outbid on, or they don't take the dog, or whatever, that should always happen in person. But there's a whole middle area, like your newsletter, right? Like AI can do 90% of it now. It still needs that human in the loop. So what's your process for like identifying what AI quote unquote can and should do and how to implement it?
Yeah, great question. And that's definitely where there's opportunities for me to leverage it, because there's a lot of tasks that I do every day. For example, like LinkedIn outreach. I'll send 25 connection requests with pretty much the same message, just to get an acceptance. And I don't use AI for that, but it still takes me 30 minutes
Hmm.
just to do that task. But that's definitely something that an AI system could do for me, or even like quick email replies or quick text replies to an inquiry. That's where now I'm still manual. I'm still doing it myself. So I would say I'm on the same page of like, hey, I know there's a lot of tasks that I'm doing that I know AI could easily do and free up my time to go do stuff that's more
Hmm.
important. But I definitely haven't leaned into it too much yet or figured out how to do it.
Got it.
But I'm definitely, as the AI is coming up, that's really how the brain's kind of shifting to leverage it. Is like, hey, is this a mundane task that I could just have AI do? Yes. But the gap I'm now is like, okay, how? What's next?
Yeah, and I think the other thing I'm seeing in the space, James, is and you saw it with Claude. I mean, Claude got released in December. You used it one time, you went, "Oh my God, this is like, okay, we're in another world now." And then Claude keeps saying, "Hey, I can do graphics for you. I could do spreadsheets. I could do this." And you're like,
Right.
"Okay, wait a
Right.
minute. Calm down. I'm still trying to figure out the difference between co-work, skills,
Yeah.
projects." You know what I mean? Like, and I don't
Right.
know about you, James. The other thing that happens often for me, because I'm thinking, is I'll come up with a brilliant business plan, but it's buried in some chat thread about where's the closest fish taco place.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That happens a lot. Yep.
Like I got to go, wait, stop the fish taco chat and get over to this other chat so that I can actually you know, and then the other, and I don't know if you've had this too with James, with it, is the information that I gave it 3 months ago for let's say a goal I had in my business. That's no longer where I'm at. The business has reiterated and changed. And he keeps going, but hey, wait a minute, Gus, you told me to stay on this topic.
Right.
And I'm like, no, no, no.
Right.
We're beyond that. All right. I've done that. I've done my newsletter. I figured it out. Leave me alone. Do you ever have that experience?
All the time where I'm like, oh, hey, I definitely discussed this. And, I'll try to do the prompt at the start. And I'm just like, hey, please remember our previous chats about X. And it's like, I
Right.
don't know where that is. So, and I have, 100 chat threads.
Oh,
So I'm like, well, dang, how do I find the chat thread? And a lot of times, like you said, the chat is almost always named unless I change it. It's whatever that first prompt was. So, I'll have like, oh, that big business initiative, it's under what is the best coffee shop in Briargate. And it's like, I never would have found that,
exactly. It's a crazy world. Well, listen, James, I'd love you to basically let our viewers know where they can get in touch with you, because obviously you have a passion for military families. You're loving Colorado Springs, and let people know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So really the best way is just email and cell phone. So my email address is just james@taborhomes.com. My cell phone number is 508-265-6709. Other than that, LinkedIn is kind of my bread and butter. That's where I spend most of my time. A lot of my focus is kind of professional networking. Very involved on LinkedIn, and then Facebook as well.
Thank you so much for watching AI Real Estate Rewired, AI with a Heart with Gus Waite. James, thank you so much for jumping on the show today. And remember, if you'd like to be on the show, you have any comments, just reach out to me. And remember that the only purpose of AI is to do more of what you love and less of what you don't. Thanks for watching. If you've got value from today's episode, hit subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking. If you're ready to turn what you love into your superpower and take what you hate off your plate, schedule your free AI discovery call. The link is in the description and pinned comment. I'm Gus Waite. Until next time.